walking off the field, faking cramps.
Yeah. We're on.
We're on.
Let's test the mics.
Mic test.
Check. 1, 2. Check. Mouths of the South.
Should I do it now?
Do it.
Check. Should I do it now? Check. Hello, everybody. Check. Hello, everybody. Check. Oh, the DA playoffs are live online right now. What's up, Clayton? Echo?
Welcome to the Fun Factory.
Do you still have an echo now, Clayton?
No, I turned it off.
Oh, okay. Eric had the echo setting on. What's up, Jenna? Whoa! I don't know. Could have used a hello, Jenna, instead of just a.
I mean, we know Josh is ugly, but
yeah, but
man,
then right, you're ugly, not whoa.
You don't have to be that mean about it.
Stephen Reed wants more feedback.
More feedback, please.
What does that mean?
It's part of the fun zone.
What?
I don't know. Is there still feedback for real? Does
that mean echo?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right. We're recording.
Are we still echoing?
No, we're not.
We're good. Okay.
Hold on. Let me throw on a Gold Cup
Get the
here.
Gold Cup game on.
Give me 1 second.
Nothing inspires soccer thoughts quite like a Gold Cup group match.
Like Cuba. Did you see
Cuba's having a rough time.
the dude that defected?
They only lost one though. It's usually way more than
so
that.
far.
Is there never? Yeah, there's the Copa World. Yeah.
I'm looking for just ESPN's.
It's FS1.
Oh, whatever.
Gold Cup is Fox Sports. What did y'all think of the U.S. women today? Pretty good win.
I saw the goals. I guess we can talk about this.
Oh, okay. I got you, Jenna. Just a misunderstanding then.
No, you can say it's ugly.
Well, you can say that, but she was just saying she was talking about something else. What's up, Chris?
He's ugly. Say.
Why do you have oxygen on the other TV?
I don't know. Does it really matter?
That will definitely distract me. Something will come up on that will distract me.
All right. You can start here in just a second, homies. Oh, we can compare Univision and FS1.
There we go.
That seems like a match made in nowhere.
HD though.
All right, so let's just start.
Stephen.
What's up, Atlanta? This is the Mouths of the South podcast brought to you by Dirty South Soccer, the palatial 680 The Fan Studios. I am Eric Quintana. Next to me, Josh Bagriansky.
Hello.
And Sam Franco out this week. He's actually got an interesting reason to be out. He has to stay home in Athens watching the NBA draft. And as part of the interview process for this job he's applying for, he's got to come up with shirt ideas. Is that right?
Based on the draft.
Based on the draft.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Me neither. So I didn't realize that was a job. I didn't realize that was the thing people got paid full time for.
It's crazy what they'll pay people for.
I hope he gets the job.
Oh, me too.
We got some great MOTS.
And Sam
is
also good at coming up with little snarky lines like that. So yeah, we could get some MOTS shirts, which would be great.
There you go.
That would be great. Maybe some for the people as well, though. So
more for the people than for us, but they're definitely for us.
Oh, okay. I want at least one shirt. I mean, we're gonna get shirts there. At least one would be nice. So.
So that's why Sam isn't here. So just Josh and I tonight, and
it's intimate, very intimate.
Oh yeah, we can touch each other.
Absolutely.
Oh
touch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Behind the screen though.
Oh, okay.
Don't let them see on the webcam. Okay. Sorry for all the podcast listeners.
I did touch Eric.
YouTube watchers.
If you didn't see it, I touched his hand.
A bit of personal news. I just wanted to. So I'm actually going to Uruguay in August for 2 weeks. I haven't seen my family that's down there. So the only people that live here are my dad, my brother, and my sister. Everyone else that I know that's in my immediate family lives down there.
Really?
I haven't seen him in like 20 years.
Montevideo? Where?
Montevideo, yeah.
Okay. Gotcha,
Well, some of them Montevideo, the others in more the country of Uruguay.
What would they say if you went down there and started saying Uruguay? They would probably disown you from the family.
Well,
if you said Uruguay.
I'm going to say Uruguay, but.
Okay, thank you. As long as you know what to do, I don't want you to get, disowned from your family.
I'm not gonna get off the plane and be like, "What up, guys? I'm in Uruguay."
You might as well just play the American role to the fullest, man. So you're gonna be there for 2 weeks.
2 weeks. I was looking at like the exchange rate and whatnot. Because I thought this was rather interesting. I didn't realize Uruguay was. I guess if you want to think about it this way, either this poor or this good of a country to come and visit as a tourist. It's like I think it's like on like the same level as Thailand. The exchange rate.
13 to 0.
One Uruguayan peso equals $0.028 US. So $10 equals 353 pesos.
Wow,
pretty good, right?
But isn't it like almost like a socialist? The government
sort of. They pride themselves on. So they're super liberal. So the marijuana's legal there.
Hey, this is my kind of people.
They've also got
on that plane.
They've also got, I guess, easy access to abortion and
don't go too far, Eric.
I know. I'm just stating the facts.
No, isn't the president was like a farmer?
So yeah,
something?
he apparently he donates all of his salary to something else.
Yeah,
he lives a very modest lifestyle. Yeah. They pride themselves on being like one of the more the least corrupt governments in all of South America.
Yeah.
So
fascinating.
It'll be fun. Anyways, I'm going to see my family in 2 weeks.
We'll miss you.
So here was the thing. I was looking at CrossFit gym. This is not like a CrossFit plug. I just thought it was interesting. I was looking at CrossFit gyms that were around where I'm going to be staying, and I contacted one of the guys that owns these boxes, and I asked him, how long would it be for 2 weeks to go and be able to work out there? And he goes, for 2 weeks, 12 classes, which amounts to 2 weeks, one class a day for every day other than Sunday, $50 US.
Wow.
If you go to New York and try to drop into a gym, that by itself could be $40 to $50.
Wow. Yeah.
This is 2 weeks in Uruguay.
Wow. So you can do you can get in the box. Do they call it a box there, or do they call it el boxeo?
No, I don't know. That's the one thing I'm a little worried about. I'm not sure I'm going to understand like the CrossFit lingo down in Uruguay because I've never heard it.
That's actually interesting. I mean, it might be universal. Like, like the Jazzercise program is like a class all over the world.
No.
If they put on a specific song, everybody knows the routine to that song, whether you're doing it in Thailand or whether you're doing it in New York City.
So the movements
like that.
So the movements are going to be the same, but when it comes to explaining what we're actually doing, I might not have any idea until I actually see it.
I'm looking forward to hearing back about your CrossFit adventures.
We'll see.
So, we'll miss you, man, and we're still going to do the podcast when you're gone, Sam and I.
We'll try to check out a Peñarol match.
Oh yeah, of course.
Try to see some local soccer.
Danubio, maybe. You got all kinds of good football down there.
Nacional.
Nacional. I can see that's a Luis Suarez club, right? It's Nacional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it?
I think so.
If I can see a Peñarol Nacional game, I'd be.
Oh, that would be awesome.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
I have no idea what side of the fence my family's on though.
Really?
Like I don't know what I think one of my cousins is Nacional. I think everyone else is Peñarol.
Okay.
But I don't really know. This was 20 years ago when I had this conversation with them last. So
they're gonna. If you get it wrong, they are going
see.
to be mighty upset with you.
See.
Yes, it was Nacional where Luis Suarez came from. Mm-hmm.
So that'd be fun. That'd be cool. I'm staying in what's called the Old City, which is like right in the heart of the more touristy spot of Montevideo. The person I'm staying with, and I hate this, but I have no idea how I'm related to her.
Do you have a big family, or
it's not even that big? I just don't know how we're related to her. I think she's my mom's cousin.
Okay.
And in Hispanic families, this kind of like not weird crossover, but my mom's cousin all of a sudden becomes my aunt or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's how that sort of works.
Okay, gotcha. Confusing, but okay.
Well, it just for lack of I'm not gonna call her. She would technically be my second cousin.
Yeah. So you just go, oh, I like that. Yeah.
So instead of that, you just go, aunt.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
So I'm staying with her. She lives in the middle of what's called the Old City, and very excited to see how that works out for me.
Yeah, that sounds like a blast.
Lots of meat.
Lots of meat, right? Yeah. I'm looking forward to hearing all about that. I'm really looking forward. The food you're gonna supposedly you're gonna go work out. We'll see. And then hopefully your family.
I have to. Otherwise, I'm going to come back 400 pounds.
Okay.
Like that's I'm going to eat.
Let's
the
make
only
sure.
reason I'm going is because I'm going to CrossFit while I'm there is because I'm going to eat so much.
At least the muscle, man.
It's not that I'm going to balance it out. It's that I'm going to balance it out just enough so that it's not
I got you.
that big of a deal when I get back.
Well, let's make sure you come back not 400 pounds and also alive. So let's make sure we don't call it Uruguay.
No, you're
And make sure you know who is Peñarol, who is Nacional before discussing with your family members, or I tend to think you might not make it back.
Walk into the stadium.
And then we can't use this studio anymore.
Which one's Peñarol?
You can pull it off. You can
Oh, yeah.
You can be that guy.
All right. That's the bit of personal news from me. Now we got to rip apart VAR.
We're starting with VAR.
We got to start with VAR. We got to start with the hot stuff. We're all excited about Atlanta United and what they did in the US Open Cup, and we'll talk about that. We're all excited about what the US Women did in the World Cup today. We're all excited about that.
Yeah, I am.
But what I'm not excited about is VAR. And so in this one, you're going to play the defendant because you're the defender of VAR.
Okay.
And I'm going to play.
All right, fine.
I'm going to play the prosecutor, I guess.
Okay.
Ready to throw VAR into soccer jail.
Okay.
For all time.
For all time.
All time.
That just seems
no
excessive.
Probation.
That seems excessive.
75 to eternity.
Jail is about reform, Eric. It's not about just.
There's no reforming. There's no reforming.
There's no reforming.
There's no reforming VAR.
You go ahead with your incorrect point.
Here's my deal. And specifically when we're talking about these calls about goalkeepers coming off their line. And that's
reviewing the penalties.
Right. That's specifically what I'm talking about in right now. Before VAR, we didn't have a ref. Well, we were supposed to have a ref specifically looking at a goalie coming off her line. Mm-hmm. And those movements were so minimal that either they weren't noticed or they weren't a big enough deal to where the AR would raise the flag and say, hey, she's off her line, all that stuff. Now, because you have so many eyes and you have replay upstairs, you're able to notice those things. So this is the equivalent of a robot officiating the game. Mm-hmm. It's a robot would pay attention to everything and would apply the would apply the letter of the law to the match. And if you look at the letter of the law, these goalkeepers are absolutely coming off their line. But all of us, 90% of us, are looking at these movements from the goalkeepers and thinking they're literally taking a step. Sure, it is forward. They're taking a step to start their dive. They're using their foot. They're planting their foot to start their dive, which is not to think they wouldn't at least step off the line just a smidge is kind of nonsense to me. Anyways, those are being called by the letter of the law
in the Women's World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I don't like the fact that whatever's going on now is being essentially tested with the Women's World Cup. I think that's completely unfair.
Yep.
Especially since you haven't. I had no idea this was even going to be happening. That they were going to be applying this specific rule to the Women's World Cup. I don't know if the women were told. I don't know if they're always told. And they kind of brushed it off like, sure, we've been told that a million times before. But it's unfair to the women for this to be tested right now. Because the World Cup is you test it in the She Believes Cup. I don't care. Do it in another tournament. Doesn't matter nearly as much as the World Cup. Because you're costing teams their World Cup. Scotland, for example.
Yeah.
It cost them their World Cup.
Yep.
The other thing I don't like about
cost Jamaica big time as well.
Yeah, the other thing I don't like about it is that even in the case of Scotland and Argentina, you've got a blatant miss. The ball's not even on frame when it's hit. Mm-hmm. And that's still being called. The goalkeeper's still being called for being off her line, and they're allowed to retake the kick.
Yep.
That to me is too much, and that alone to me is I just had enough of VAR. Between that,
so that's it.
And the way offsides are called now, I've had enough of it. I've had enough of it. I get what they're trying to do, but I like the idea of making a call, sticking with that call. I understand that a lot of the times they're going to go against your team, they're going to go for your team. But we've never, it's never been bad enough to where we need a revolution in this game. And so I'm at the point now where VAR it's been fun. It's not been fun.
I don't know. I think
It's helped Atlanta at times. It's hurt Atlanta at times. I'm ready to just say forget it.
So let's try to divide this into two parts. First of all, what Eric's talking about, I couldn't agree more. The rule which has changed slightly now, which they've mentioned on television quite a bit, is that on a penalty kick, the goalkeeper can have 1 foot remain on the goal line as they come out to cut off the angle when the kick is taken. So not only is that's impossible to really do without every now and then having your foot a quarter inch off that goal line, period. And I believe at the World Cup last summer, the men's World Cup, I think it was and they did not use VAR for these situations, but I think it was 15 of 19 penalties, a keeper technically broke that rule. So it shows you it's impossible to police. So the solution is not abandon VAR. It's what the Premier League came out and said today and said, we're not going to review keepers coming off their line on penalty kicks. And the referees should do a better job of calling them more blatant offenses, because with coming off your line, you have to call those quarter inches off your line. We are really not gaining an advantage. If you have your back foot a quarter, tenth of an inch off the line, you're not gaining an advantage, but you can't turn back and look at your foot and say, oh, it's still on the line. You can't, as a goalkeeper, restrict your reactions because you're thinking about your back foot being on the line. So you can't police it. This is something that referees should be calling in real time more often. Quite a few just simply haven't had the stones, when a keeper comes blatantly off his line or her line and makes a save. So this is something I'd say, number one, let's say the officials need to do a better job of calling it, although they claimed at the World Cup in Russia, the men's World Cup last summer, they were going to do a better job of officiating and didn't, that specific rule, which might be why it's been used for VAR in the first place. But the way you solve this is simple, because everyone's looking at this one basically loophole in VAR. Why should we abandon the system altogether because it doesn't work in this specific instance? Just don't review the keeper coming off their line on penalties. That's all it is. So I don't understand why every time we have a VAR discussion, and yes, it's new, so there are implementation issues. There's always going to be controversy with the subjective and interpretive nature of calls in soccer. Why are we calling to abandon the? Why are you calling, Eric, to abandon the system altogether because there's a loophole with respect to goalkeepers coming off their line? Just don't review that portion. Don't review that specific play.
My problem is, well, what I like about the pre-VAR era was that you still had, one way or the other, you just had that passion. And that's been taken away.
Yeah, there's no passion left.
No, I'm not saying there's no passion.
These people are you're out of control.
I'm not saying there's no passion left anymore.
The hyperbole police are anti-VAR.
But what I'm saying is that you take away that moment for the goal score. You take away that moment for
the finality of
it. You take that away. I like the idea of I'm okay with the idea of human error. I understand it's a human sport. At the end of the day, I know some people have a hard time with this. I know that soccer is just a game and it's not going to change the course of history politically or medically or socially. It's just a game. It's not, no one deserves to die after a game. No one deserves to.
Did you see what Breck Shea did? No, I'm just kidding.
But it's look, the only way I'm okay with this is if FIFA decides, okay, we understand that there are problems with VAR. We have to go back and change the entire rule book. Not
the law, actually how the laws are written.
Adjust the way that we're going to use VAR. We're not going to just, here's VAR, here's the rule book, go. We're not going to do that moving forward. We're going to look at the mistakes over the last 2 years now that VAR has been implemented in one way, in one league or another, and we're going to look at the bigger controversial cases and see how we can have this not happen on a regular basis. We got to find a way to shorten this.
Is it happening on a regular basis?
It's happening enough that we're talking about it. Is it?
Well, that's because
this World Cup alone,
ridiculous anti-VAR people look for a controversy, whether it be in the Vietnamese League or in the Women's World Cup, and say, this is why we can't have VAR altogether. This is why we can't have nice things. There's always going to be controversy. There's always going to be issues implementing a completely brand new system. And you're right, Eric, maybe some of that has to do with tweaking the laws, which were not written with respect to instant replay.
And I'm okay with that idea. If that's my problem with that is that it's going to take 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years for that to happen.
I mean, but
it's going to take so long for that to happen that by the time it does happen, it's like, why didn't we do this 10 years ago? Why didn't we do this when we first put VAR out?
I mean, I don't think it'll take 8-10 years. I don't.
They haven't done it in 2.5.
But
3.
I think the reality is there's always going to be controversy. There's always going to be controversy. There is a subjective nature to making calls in soccer. So sometimes when a referee sees particular, like a potential red card challenge, some referees might deem that as a clear and obvious. The VAR themselves simply has to ascertain, all right, do we have a potential clear and obvious error there? But once the head referee comes and looks at it, there's subjectivity to certain calls, particularly like potential reds and things like that. There's not subjectivity to things like offside and whatnot. So there's always going to be controversy. Hopefully, it's not so much with the implementation of it, and hopefully not so much with calls being incorrectly made after looking at the replay, Ismail Elfath, and many other MLS refs. But I just don't understand. I just don't understand you people. I just don't understand. Why are you saying let's abandon?
What do you mean, you people?
You anti-VAR people. You should hear these people on their high horse. Oh, it's ruining the sanctity of the game.
No. See, I don't think that.
Give me a break.
But it is fundamentally changing the way the game is being refereed. It's fundamentally changing the offside rule, not the offside rule itself, but how it's being called, how essentially you're allowing everything to get played out, and then
not everything. See, he's exaggerating and using
90% of the time. It's everything. It's everything. Let's just let it play out, even if it's obvious. I saw it the other day with Cavani, and he must have been 3 feet offside, and it was obvious. We were watching on TV, and it was obvious. And they waited for the entire play to run out, even though they all knew Cavani stopped. Luis Suarez stopped because they thought it's gonna get called. When they didn't get called, they went through with it, and I don't even know what the result was.
What you're talking about is how the AR waits. If they don't know, they let the whole play go through, and then sometimes they'll flag because when you go to the VAR, you want to have a decision made to review. Right. I mean, whatever, man. I just look. What do you want from VAR? If you, I totally understand.
I think I want it limited to specific things that are either it is or it isn't. So. If we go back to the goalkeeping, if they're off the line, if that's how you're going to call it from now on, fine. I don't want any variation of that from now on.
And that's
in the women's game, in the men's game, in league play, in international play, I want if the goalkeeper is a centimeter off the line, I want that called every time. I want the uniformity.
Sadly, that's basically the precedent that's been set, right? And that's why they need to just avoid using VAR for that call altogether.
It's 100% not fair for the women. That's that. I think we can all agree.
Well, the ridiculous part of this, and we're seeing a lot of issues with VAR in the Women's World Cup we didn't see last summer. And I think the main thing is a lot of these referees are using it for the first time.
Yeah.
With the Men's World Cup, they tested it the summer before in Confederations Cup. They had, say, Mark Geiger was one of the top VAR guys at the World Cup. He had used it quite a bit in MLS. For these referees in the Women's World Cup, and someone correct me if I'm wrong with respect to the VAR folks themselves, but there has been no time to test this at all with respect to the Women's World Cup in the women's game. This is the first time that it's really been implemented. So you're seeing a lot of issues in terms of things taking too long. I think the call on the U.S. women's national team, the onside on the Tobin Heath, I guess it was an own goal, the second goal. I thought that came from an offside, and I thought the referee just missed it. It went to VAR, and I thought the referee just missed it. So you're seeing extreme issues with people, I think, using this for the very first time. So I mean, again, you'll always see a difference between the top referees, experienced referees using VAR, and inexperienced referees, like in the Women's World Cup. So, I mean, they basically used this as a way to test out rules, like the coming off the line rule, to say, well, let's see if we can use this in men's tournaments in the future. And that's totally unfair to use a World Cup as kind of your guinea pig for certain ways to use VAR. Use it in Confederations Cup. You could use it in the She Believes Cup, if you want to use it on the women's side. There are other tournaments that you can use it in. So a big part of, aside from the anti-VAR people running amok like usual, a big part of this
Whoa.
Sorry.
Relax, bro.
It's ruining the emotion of the game. Look, those ratings are way down, y'all. But I think the reason it's really, really looking bad during the Women's World Cup is because you have people using it for the first time. And we saw similar things when it was used for the first time on the men's side when they were first implementing it in MLS. There were some absolute disasters.
Absolutely.
Even going back, I think, to when it was implemented it. The Confederations Cup, I think that was the first time I saw it used. There were some issues. So a lot of the problems you're having right now in France are part and parcel with people using the system for the first time. I don't think because VAR in general is a flawed system.
So I'm not 100% sure. Maybe it's just a logistical thing. I don't know why it's not being used, why it is being used in Copa America, but not in the Gold Cup. That seems strange to me. It's either,
well,
I was gonna say it's either strange or they just want to keep the CONCACAF nature of the Gold Cup.
They're a little afraid to,
maybe.
Yeah.
It's going to the Premier League next year.
Yep.
I'm very excited to see how that goes.
I tell you, there's going to be.
I'm very excited to see how that goes, because if it's called the same, and look, my expectation is that it's going to be called much better, miles away from what it was called in MLS the first year. I think it's going to be implemented and used much better than it still is in MLS.
Well, these are better referees,
right?
Yeah.
I think they're going to have. They understand that they're on the world stage. I would argue sometimes more than anything else, even the World Cup itself.
Premiership?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that being said, they know that they have a billion eyes on them at all times.
Mm-hmm.
And so one little mistake with VAR, or if it's not implemented the right way, and sure, there are going to be some issues, but I think those issues are going to be much more minor than what we saw in MLS.
And there will still be controversy. I mean,
sure.
And that's one of the things I think people aren't realizing is the VAR's implementation was not to remove controversy from the game, and it's simply there to get important calls correct more often, and that's exactly what it's done. Now, I understand the other side of it. Again, I think it's a little bit much with the hyperbole for me, but I do understand as a fan. It's different. It changes. It doesn't remove the emotion. It changes the emotion. It's different when you score a goal. But I mean, but just spare me they need to get rid of VAR because it's reviewing things it shouldn't.
Look,
the system can be tweaked and improved, and its goal is merely to get more calls right, and it's doing that. So if you don't care about that and you care more about, like you were saying, Eric, the final emotion of scoring a goal or something like that, I understand. But just spare me that it's making calls worse, because it's not.
I'm just okay with human error.
But see, I don't get this, right? And then they go to VAR, and the person watching VAR makes a human error, and all these anti-VAR people are like, "Oh God!" But then they want human error. Like, how can you can't have it both ways?
It just feels like half the time that VAR is used, it's like the human error is doubled.
Yeah, but you're just thinking that. That's not true. There's clear data on this. It's like 98% of the calls are correct, except Ismail Alfaf and a few MLS referees who don't understand what's going on. Just you're killing me.
It's either that or I just need to go back. Anyways, my dad.
I get it.
My dad said it was straight poop. So
I get it.
That to me, that was the final word.
I get it. I just can't live with this pulling isolated incidents of it being implemented correctly by the people using it, and then saying, "Oh, but it removes all human error." And then there's human error using VAR, and everyone's like, "Oh, well, why doesn't it get every call right?" So
I'm not saying it removes all human error. What I'm saying is that I was okay with decisions being bad decisions being the fault of human error. Either they're in a bad position or
and that still occurs.
It wasn't offside or whatever.
I'm not with offside, but
whatever. But you know what I mean. The calls that are wrong due to human error for whatever reason, I was okay. I can live with those because there's no one to blame after that. It's just the ref sucked.
Well, you blame the referee.
But now we still blame the ref, and we have VAR. It doesn't seem like, at least from my perspective, not looking at the statistics, it seems as though we're in the same, if not a worse place than we were before VAR.
Well, that's just because you're on Twitter and all of our friends are like, "Oh my God, the football I love is dead."
You know, I'm the most objective person.
Yeah, right.
When it comes to Atlanta United, when it comes to
talk to Martino, 99% of the state.
You know that I'm one of the more objective people.
I know. Yeah.
I wouldn't just be saying this.
I know what you're reading online, but I'm telling you, usually, if we sit here and talk about controversy with VAR, there's always controversy, but usually the call is right, or at least there's an explanation for what the referee thought, and that's what it's there for. So controversy stays around, yes, because Eric, like you and I might see something, and we both might think that's a clear and obvious red, and you might not. There is a subjective nature to that. The same thing happens with an MLS MLS ref, or whoever ref goes and looks at the screen on VAR. So there's still an element of excuse me, of subjectivity to this. And VAR only reviews, what would you say, 5% of the calls made in the match anyway.
Sure.
So it's not like it's taking away the referee's ability to set the tone of the match and all that. Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying here. I totally. But again, there's so much just nauseating hyperbole about the emotion and purity of the game, and just I can't handle it. I can't handle it. I still love watching soccer. I don't know about you.
Speaking of getting it right, Frank DeBoer got it right.
Well, let's talk about the U.S. women's national team first.
All right.
Okay, because I don't want to just talk about VAR and not give credit to last week I felt, obviously I was very critical of them, but I think they've been fantastic. I thought they played really well today against Sweden. Hopefully I'm eating some serious crow, because coming into this tournament, I was really thinking the type of soccer the U.S. women's national team played is going to lag behind some of the other nations as they've started to take their developmental processes seriously. I mean, watching them play these 3 matches, and granted, it's not the best of competition, but Sweden is a solid side, although they did rest, I think, 7 starters today.
That was tactical, right? They didn't want to play France the next round?
Well, it'll be Spain. It'll be Spain,
yeah.
and quarterfinals will be France now for the United States, assuming that they win their round of 16 match. I can't remember who that's against. So that's setting up a doozy of a matchup. But
so is it really revenge based on what happened at
on France?
No, against Sweden.
Oh, based on the last? No, I don't.
I was
think
gonna
so.
say, it's like that they built it up in the pregame as if this was like some kind of revenge match. And I was like, is it really?
Yeah, I didn't get that feeling.
Not on the field, no, not from the players.
I mean,
at all.
certainly. I mean, but there was a little bit of smack talking heading into it. But I thought, U.S. women's national team, fantastic. They score early off a set piece and just kind of boss the game from there on out. So I'm definitely seeing a side of this team that maybe we didn't see in the lead up. Obviously, they can score goals. Obviously, they're as good as anyone in the tournament. But like I said, Eric, you're starting to see them play with a creativity, I think a technical side of their game that they're going to really need to match an opponent like Spain, to match an opponent like France, because these sides, and this is how much the women's game has improved over the last decade or so, they have a system, and they play tactically. They knock the ball around. That's something the U.S. men's national team has obviously struggled a lot with in the past. And I think there are reasons to believe that the women's team might struggle with it too, because the developmental processes in the U.S. that we feel hinder creativity in terms of exclusivity of the game, college soccer being used as a primary development point. Things like that, I think, hold back creativity, and that's something we've talked a lot about on the men's side. I felt in this World Cup you're going to see that start happening on the women's side. It still might, where I think the U.S. women,
I feel like it's
lack that creative nature in the final third that other countries have. But I don't know. I mean, I hope they prove me wrong, and certainly they're well on their way to doing so.
So I think that the world is kind of creeping up. I think it's a little slower than I think you thought.
Yeah,
because
agreed.
It's clear that
totally agree with you.
The competition for the U.S. women's national team it's gotten, the competition at least has gotten better. It's not as good as the U.S. women's national team, but it's definitely gotten better with respect to the teams that aren't the the juggernauts of the U.S. women's game.
Totally.
Or the women's soccer game. Yeah. It's definitely gotten a little bit better, and I think over the next 10 years or so, you're going to see. I think you are going to get to that point where the U.S. women's national team isn't the favorite going into.
Or even just there's not 2 or 3 huge favorites. It's 5, 6, 7, 8 teams that could possibly.
It's more
win.
like the men's game as opposed to.
Perhaps even more competitive. We'll see the men's game top to bottom. So yeah, I mean, I've been loving the tournament, man. I thought that the Scotland-Argentina game was fantastic.
Oh, gosh, that had me on edge.
Although again,
I was so upset.
A referee completely out of her depth. I mean, still can't believe that. Basically, you had 8 minutes of extra stoppage created from all the VAR controversy we kind of touched on a little bit, and then you only add 1 extra minute of stoppage time was shocking. But I think it's been fantastic. You're right, though, Eric. I mean, there's still, when you watch a Thailand, when you watch a Jamaica, when you watch a Chile, when you watch some of the minnows, and it's not the fault of the players. It's the fault of the federation for not putting more money into it, developing players better, because you can see the base of talent there. It just hasn't been honed enough. But I still think when you watch the teams towards the bottom, that's where you can see there's still a really big imbalance. And only until that is kind of narrowed a little bit. Do I think the women's game will be where it wants to be? That being said, I think it's well on its way if you look at how far it's come in the last decade or so.
It's tough just because when you get to, if you look at the men's game and the women's game, put aside, I mean, you can even include the World Cup. I would almost say put it aside. When you look at like the level of attendance, the level of viewership, typically for the women, that's down. There's typically more viewership, more activity, more. And don't just look at the ratings. I'm not talking about just the ratings. I'm talking about just the hype, again the social media presence, the different kind of programming. It's always more elevated for the men. And that's not the fault of the women. That's just kind of the
Men's World Cup's been around for
unfair nature of the beast, if you want to call it that.
And also just, I mean, 60 more years of Men's World Cup. There's more precedent.
But as you go down to as you kind of take
more than 60.
As you go down the kind of the levels of countries that have women's soccer. And I'm not talking about the U.S., the Swedens, the France. I'm talking the Spains. I'm talking about the more third world, second world countries that do have women's soccer. The level of interest is even lower than you could possibly imagine.
Of course,
that plays a big part of why it's taking so long for a lot of this development to happen. Is that sure you could have a federation like Thailand invest all its money into it, but it's going to feel for the federation kind of a waste when no one's watching these games.
And I don't know how much
when no one's really paying attention.
Yeah,
you can say the same thing for Jamaica. You can say the same thing for many of the African teams. Although I would presume to think that the African teams.
Cameroon went through today. Absolutely,
that was awesome.
Brilliant.
That was
a beautiful game with it. I agree.
It's a harsh way to put it, but that's the reality of the situation. It's the federations should, but it's tough to ask the federations, whoever they are, to invest all this money when there's the level of interest from the fan base is just not there. It's not where it needs to be in order to introduce a level of financial interest or financial what am I looking for? Commitment to help grow the women's game in those specific countries.
But I still think, let's not compare Thailand to, say, Argentina, who I think if the women's game gets to where we both think it's going to get to, a country like Thailand is probably not qualifying for the World Cup in the first place, just like on the men's side they haven't had a sniff. But I looked at a country like Argentina, and they slept in the bus.
Yeah, that's bad.
Down there, and so obviously they could commit more. But also, I watch a team like that, and one of the beautiful things about international soccer is you can really sense the culture of the way a game is played, and you could see with the Argentinian team that they had a lot of the same traits that the men do. Obviously, not as refined, maybe because of all the reasons we've talked about. But you see that creativeness there. You see that you see that kind of quintessential South American way to play. So you got to invest in that, because that way to play specifically has won out so many times throughout history of the game. So you've got to invest something if you're one of those countries in South America that are flush with money. You've got the resources, and big country like Argentina, you should be able to develop and find enough women's footballers where you can be, a really good side. I would say the same thing about Chile, and Brazil is certainly in South America the only country that has really done a good job of honing that talent. So I look at some of these.
Does Mexico invest that kind of a?
Mexico was surprised, no, but more than Argentina. They're not sleeping in a bus. They were actually upset by Jamaica to get to this World Cup, which was a big surprise. But when I look at some of these countries like Argentina, and I see the way those ladies battle and fight, and the way they're tactically sound, and I'm thinking, man, if you just spend some money, not billions, not like crazy money, but spend a little money investing, and you might have a lot of success on the world stage. And that's when the viewership increases. That's when you get more fans, and hopefully the performance of these countries in this World Cup, not even that they were like amazing, but hopefully turned enough heads to realize, hey, if we put some money into this, we can have a pretty solid little program. So we'll see what happens. I've loved watching it. It's been a great tournament so far.
Lindsey Horan with the goal in the third minute for the U.S. women's national team, and then
you have an own goal.
You have an own goal.
Yes.
Off the foot of Tobin Heath.
Yes, and it was an own goal. So
I saw it 3 or 4 times, and at first I was like, oh, that was a pretty nice goal from Tobin. And then I immediately was like, oh, that's an own goal.
So if you look closer,
that was a cross into the six.
It was a clear
that was
cross.
A shot.
It's a clear cross. In real time, it's hard to kind of see, but if you look at the sideline angle, you can see she's crossing it across the face of goal. But take nothing away from her. I mean, I thought it was her approach. She's my favorite player on the U.S. team. I mean, I love the way she plays, the way she is on the ball, and she got a little bit of luck there, but when you're good on the ball, you're running at a defender, you've got them on your back foot. Sometimes you create your own luck. So I thought that was, obviously, it's a well-deserved goal on the run of play, and even though the goal won't be credited to her, she did a good job to create it.
Definitely did most of the work to get that going. All right.
Should we talk about Atlanta United?
Back to my original tease before you stepped all over it. Speaking of making good choices.
Oh, sorry.
Good decisions. Frank DeBoer made a good decision.
My bad.
When it came to starting Brendan Vasquez in the U.S. Open Cup. 2 goals for the youngster. One in the 5th minute. The next one, 50-something?
Yeah.
It's sometime in the second half. I know that Atlanta United was up 2 before the 15th minute. Fantastic header from, well, I won't say fantastic, but good enough header from Miles Robinson on that corner.
Yeah.
But man, to get up 2-0 on Columbus, a team that you typically haven't done. I'm not gonna say you haven't done well against them, but it's always been a back and forth affair with Columbus. You never really know. It's always a tighter match than I think the scoreline typically leads you to believe, even if the score is just a one goal margin. This one, so I started watching in the 18th minute, and I immediately tweeted out, "How the hell did we score 2 goals? Where did these 2 goals? How is it 2-0 already?" Can I tell you the responses I got on Twitter? They're not nice.
I know some people said turn your television
They're not nice.
Well, and then Columbus scored a few minutes after you suddenly started watching. Hashtag blame Aaron.
I got Matt today from Jenna. Go back to whatever you were doing.
Who said that?
At TJ Tiguin.
Oh, TCG. Yeah, of course, yeah.
It's bad, just stay away. Someone just says no. Someone says we're winning, turn the TV off now.
That's like 6 replies.
Chris Blankenship, awful, would not watch. Michael Buckaloo says not today.
Wow. Well, at least the people
5-stripe stunner, go watch U.S. men's national team.
Adam, don't do that to Eric. Tell him to watch something other than U.S. men's national team.
Sean Mack with the tweet of the night. Eric, we love you. Therefore, we don't want to kill you, so turn the TV off. Crack open a good book and please enjoy the rest of your evening. I must insist on this.
What a guy.
Go away, Eric. We can't afford your jinx tonight.
This is like 10 replies.
Sean, after the Columbus goal, Sean Mack sends me a picture of Kevin McCauley pumping a shotgun.
Well, no, I mean, what a surprise! I'm glad that the people. If we've taught you anything on this podcast, hashtag blame Aaron.
TCG does math in his head. Yep, checks out. Hashtag blame Aaron.
That's great. I didn't realize it had that many responses.
I mean, it was.
Thank God it started raining.
After the sixth one, I just sent some kind of gif of like Patrick from SpongeBob.
I saw a few replies. I didn't realize it was that widespread.
I was a little upset. You guys are mean.
Well, despite Eric trying to ruin the result, fortunately, Atlanta United pulled it out. Shocking! It starts pouring down rain again in the second half.
I was convinced after the Vasquez goal. I was like, they got to call this.
Yeah,
they got to call this. There's no reason to play the last 15 minutes.
Yeah,
but
it cleared up a little bit.
That second Vasquez goal I thought was pretty impressive.
I think he was passing.
What you think? Oh no, yeah. for sure. That was a lucky bounce from either the water spot or the goalkeeper's finger or something like that. But to get around the defender,
fantastic.
He did, I thought awesome. Especially in those kind of super wet conditions. I'm not saying he's a starter. I don't think he should be a starter, but I think he's certainly put himself in a place to start over to sub in before Mario Williams at this point.
Well, and that's the thing though, is you're looking at
because you don't get anything like that out of Mario Williams.
And you're looking at next week, you're playing Toronto, and Joseph Martinez will still be with Venezuela, yeah, in the Copa America.
Unless they send people home after the group stage.
So
because he hasn't played a minute yet.
He played 10 minutes in the last match, but Brandon Vasquez might be starting next week. So I think that I'm glad you brought that up, Eric, because if there's one thing, this has been such a weird time in the season where you're playing 2 U.S. Open Cup matches and no league matches over the better part of a month or so. But if we could take one thing from these two matches, it's first of all that I think Vasquez has moved above Romario Williams in the pecking order, which was shown by him just starting that match in the first place after Romario had started the previous match against Charleston.
I think that Frank DeBoer had kind of had enough of Romario Williams. I think that I don't know that Brandon Vasquez maybe. I don't know. Look, he made the most of the opportunity, and what I'm gonna say is pretty harsh. I don't want it to. I don't mean to sound as harsh, but I think Romario Williams lost his opportunity, and Brandon Vasquez took advantage of the opportunity.
No, I wholeheartely agree. And one thing we've talked a little bit about is if there's one area you don't have a lot of depth, it's at the striker position, where we previous to this show, or at least previous to what Brandon Vasquez showed in the last two USOC matches, we would have said, I think I'd put Tito Villalba up there before I put Romario or Brandon Vasquez. Maybe Vasquez has staked his claim a little bit more to being a true backup number 9. And good for him, because that's a player that, me personally, I'd more or less written him off. I mean, he wasn't even getting into the 18. He performed really poorly when we'd seen him. So this is a huge, huge couple matches for him in terms of getting back, moving back up the pecking order and trying to be a part of the rotation. And, yeah, I mean, he was great. Obviously, not the best defending on both goals, but
not the best goalkeeping either.
Yeah.
I thought, look, it was tough. Given the conditions, it was tough. Look, I don't care how it happens. These are these matches where I'm not really sure. I'm not gonna criticize Guzano that much because because
you're not gonna criticize him on the second goal
specifically on the So I'm just saying it was tough.
Oh,
the conditions.
Bad, though,
I understand, but no, in my opinion, no harm, no foul. Because we advance, we go on to the next stage. It's just survive as long as you can in this tournament. I'm okay. You want to look make the mistakes in these matches that you still move on from, and you can still live another day to play St. Louis FC. Hopefully, you get past them. You get to the semifinals. Once you get to that point, then you're starting to. Those are going to hurt a lot more. But this, even had we lost, I'd been like, all right, well, rainy conditions, Columbus does it to us again. The narrative didn't really change. It would have been tough, but it wouldn't have hurt as much as it would have in an MLS match or later in this tournament. I'm not. Guzan has proven time and time again that he belongs on this team. That he's a one of the top goalkeepers in MLS. I'm not going to say the top goalkeeper, but one of the top goalkeepers in MLS. And more often than not, he's not making those mistakes.
Yeah, I mean,
sure, he's got a bad mistake every now and then, but more often than not, he's a solid goalkeeper that you absolutely want starting on this team.
Yeah, I mean, if you play a lot of games in goal, you're going to make some mistakes. So I mean, that's simple. I thought that error was really bad, though, in my opinion.
It was
wet, but that wasn't going on goal. He should have done better. What about the first goal for Columbus? Because I know some people, Darlington Nagbe was injured at the time.
I said this on the radio show. I don't know that if I'm a Columbus player. Okay, look, I'm taking a step back. I'm removing my Atlanta United hat.
Oh, I thought you were objective.
I am. That's what I'm saying. I'm removing the Atlanta United hat.
You're becoming objective as you.
I'm stepping back.
I see.
I'm going to be the objective. What did I call it the other day? I'm going to give you the objective perspective here on the podcast. I probably would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
Because I know Nagbe's fine. I know as a player, Nagbe's fine.
Yeah,
because I know as soon as I kick the ball out, Nagbe's going to stand up, he's going to walk, and he's going to be perfectly fine. And it turns out he played the rest of the game, so what really happened?
And even aside from that, I think, it's the referee's job to blow that play dead. Like you said, Eric, it wasn't like it didn't look like a serious injury, which, by the way, it's also the referee's job to stop play if he thinks this player needs attention immediately or if it's a head injury. So I thought Columbus did it. It kind of sucked because basically, was it Harrison Offlow that scored the goal? I have to look back and see who scored the goal, but it was basically Darlington Nagbe's mark.
Yeah.
We kind of ran around him to the top of the box when he was lying on the ground.
So I say that about Nagbe on the ground and the objective perspective. But
David Akam scored the goal. My bad.
I would have reacted the same way Barco did after that goal. So I would have done the same thing Columbus did. I would also have reacted the same way Barco did after that goal because I would have wanted to be like, look, bro, there's certain unwritten rules. I know Jay's going to hate the fact that we're talking about unwritten rules. I want to go back and see what his perspective is about this.
Jay Riddle.
Because that's an unwritten rule. And I saw him tweet a couple days ago about show me the unwritten rule book.
Unwritten rules, yeah, right.
So
How can you show the rule book that's unwritten?
I would love to see what he said about this.
If it's not written, how can I show it to you?
But no, there is a certain, if you want to call it gentlemanly or sportsmanship aspect of the game that would be you don't score with a player down right in front of the box. But look, you know what these players do more often than not, and it's usually buying time. It's usually a ploy to get the referee to stop play.
That's why they changed the rule.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't change it. That's why they said, look, the referee is the one to blow it dead. The teams have no reason to kick the ball out.
Yes.
You know, so I had no issue at all with what they did.
I don't like it. It didn't cost us anything. I ultimately don't care that much about it.
And the reason, again, they changed that is because you had players that just I remember this kind of came to a head, I think, in the 98 or 2002 World Cup, literally just flopping on the ground and rolling around as the other team was attacking, particularly like if they lost it and the other team went and countered, and then they kicked the ball out. So, to your point, Eric, the reason that the rule is interpreted this way and they've emphasized it this way is specifically for that reason you mentioned, is players are going down and faking it. And now it's up to the referee to determine whether it's a serious enough injury to stop play. And there's also little, as far as unwritten rules go, if one team kicks the ball out in that scenario, then later in the match the same thing happens the other way around. The other team is expected to kick the ball out. That was not the case here.
I would rather a team just play through it, because what I would love to stop happening is stuff like this. And I know Nagby's the one that did it.
I don't think he was trying to slow down the play.
No, I legitimately think he needed
he needed a few seconds.
Sure. I'm not saying that, but I do know that he was going to pop up and he was going to walk and play the rest of the match like it was nothing, and ultimately there'd be no reason to stop the match.
Yeah, and even so as a defense, you can't switch off. That's literally why they are emphasizing the rule that way, because they're saying defenders don't switch off, keep playing, and if they kick the ball out, they kick it out.
I would like for that aspect of the game to get blown into space. I would love for players to stop. I'm not gonna say don't stop drawing fouls. That's not what I'm talking about. But rolling on the I'm watching Argentina and Uruguay play over the last couple of days, and I'm seeing this constantly where they just fall on the ground, roll over 15 times.
Excessive gamesmanship.
And I'm like, come on. My dad was Suarez. My dad hates Suarez.
Really?
And we're a Uruguayan family.
Wow.
And he thinks it's too much. It's too theatrical. It's too much blah blah blah. It's too much yelling, and the biting is just a icing on the cake. But I want that part of the game to leave, because that to me is annoying. Even when Atlanta United does it, when Assad used to do it, it drove me absolutely insane. I hated it.
Well,
I know it's just kind of the culture when it comes to playing soccer in South America, specifically in places like Argentina and Uruguay, but like it
happens everywhere.
I know, but it's the aesthetics of the whole thing. It gives the game a bad name across other sports, and I just would rather it go away.
Well, I love it. I love all the BS. I think it's awesome. I think it is that you can see the cultural differences between players and countries and people and all that. I think it's awesome. It's up to the referee to police it. That being said, and it's never going to stop. It's never going to stop. But you should watch more women's soccer, because
that doesn't happen.
It does a little, but not excessively. It all goes back to my theory that women are just generally better behaved than men.
Better humans.
Just better humans, better, the stronger gender, whatever. There are some calls that have happened in the Women's World Cup. If they happened in the men's game, like what we were just talking about with the Scotland, the Scotland-Argentina match, where the referee failed to add on an appropriate amount of stoppage time, that happened. It would have been a riot. I mean, the men's, and it was 2 or 3 players yelling at the ref, and then they realizing, well, we can't change it. That doesn't happen with dudes.
Let's go play the rest of the
Too
game,
much testosterone. And I always thought that men generally don't accept responsibility for their actions in the immediate aftermath. And that's another reason that you see diving, arguing, fighting, even though every time it's the same, right? Everyone takes their team's side, everyone takes the other team's side, and they both look stupid, right? But it continues to happen because men just can't help themselves. They just can't help themselves. And that's why it's never going to stop. Like I said, personally, I love it. I think it's great. It's frustrating, particularly when the referee's not able to kind of control it. But that's definitely a difference between the men's and the women's game. Is the general, like you said, the better human beingness of the women's players.
How did you like Barco's reintroduction to the team
man.
after
The
his
difference
stint
is
with U20?
when you compare, and you say it wasn't Atlanta United's best match, and certainly you have to kind of disregard those 30 minutes or so when the pitch became waterlogged or whatever. The difference in the attack going forward with Barco in the lineup,
Night and day.
even playing against Charleston
Yeah.
a week earlier, and Andrew Carlton did a pretty decent job, but you created hardly, I mean, a little bit, but not much in the run of play. And suddenly you slide in a player like Ezekiel Barco underneath the striker, and everything comes together, even without a Joseph Martinez on the field. And that was, I mean, you could see a difference within 15, 20 minutes of a player like Barco who was able to hold the ball in spaces where defenders are collapsing onto him. And it kind of goes along to what we've been saying the last couple of weeks, is that we see PT as more of a we want you to stay in a dangerous area, and we will find you in that area. Ezekiel Barco is more a player that's going to go find the ball and then progress the ball into those dangerous areas in the first place. And you saw such a difference in Atlanta United's ability to possess the ball in dangerous areas, penetrate in the final third. I thought he was fantastic. Even down to the very end where DeBoer moved him up by himself the last 5 minutes, when we're defending, which is something that Tata Martino did with Miguel Almirón. He had a huge chance. So I thought, his impact on the game was very, very apparent. And you're comparing it to last week we played Charleston, who's a much weaker opponent than Columbus, and we're able to create anything. Play a stronger opponent the next week in Columbus with pretty much the same 11, except Barco comes in, and suddenly you look like a real threat going forward.
Yeah, I wasn't super impressed with how the team overall played. I enjoyed watching Brandon take advantage of the opportunities he had.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, love seeing a goal from Miles Robinson. I thought outside of those moments, and there's another aspect of Barco that I feel like is so underappreciated. But Barco played fantastic. Everyone else played just okay, as a team at least.
I'll give Vasquez, I guess.
Sure. So Vasquez, yeah, but had it not been for those mistakes from the goalkeeper, from the defender, from everyone, I'll give him credit for this. Here's the thing: I'm a little weary on the second goal because it did look like it was a pass.
Yeah, it was an own goal.
The first one, a mistake from the defender. So.
And unlucky, like I said,
Look, I'm glad he took advantage of the opportunities that he had. Consistency is a thing that I always harp on, so let's keep it up, Brandon. But playing Barco, man, I never thought I'd be saying this, but he's going to change this team moving forward the rest of the season.
Well, he is this year's Almirón in the sense. I'm not saying he's the same as Miguel Almirón, but in the sense that the system is built around him.
Yeah.
The way Atlanta United want to attack is going to be built around Ezekiel Barco. The fact that, and it shows in the fact that with Almirón, a player that's 100 miles per hour all the time, Atlanta United last year, more of a direct team at times. This year, you have a player in Barco, and I think the possession was 50-50 in this match, to be fair, although I would say the last 30 minutes with the pitch waterlogged made it different. A good player like Barco is a little more of a patient player, and it changes the whole way that you play. It's all based on how he plays underneath the striker.
Can we sidebar to Almirón real quick? Did you see his assist?
Paraguay? Fantastic. I thought he was the best player on the pitch last night.
Oh!
I thought he was the best player on the pitch for Paraguay last night. And
I went nuts. I went nuts for him.
Dude, I was.
Well,
no, Paraguay. They were sitting back and counterattacking through Almirón, and I could have sat there and cried. I mean, it was like I remember exactly what this looks like.
That's the Atlanta United Almirón.
Yeah, right. I mean, it was awesome to watch. It was fantastic.
Okay, the underappreciated aspect of Barco. Yeah. Set pieces.
Oh my God, yeah.
They're so much better with him. They're so much better with him kicking the ball. I don't know what Pitti was doing while in Barco's absence, but my gosh, he's
able to hit the ball kind of like
it's so much different,
like more driven with a little bit more power. This is something we talked about last year when there was all these ups and downs in Barco's game, trying to figure out where he was effective. But the one area where we looked at the numbers and it was very clear with set pieces and how much more dangerous Atlanta United were on the pitch when he was taking the set pieces as opposed to anyone else. He hits a great dead ball. I totally agree with you, man. And that helps in a match like this. I mean, who knows if it's only if it starts raining and you're not up a goal, very different. Very different. And so little moments like that make things easier for you down the stretch.
All right, so here is Atlanta United's schedule over the next few weeks. You got Toronto FC on next Wednesday, the 26th.
Eight matches in 26 days. Yeah. Next Wednesday is brutal.
So you got that Wednesday game, then you got a Saturday game against Montreal, and that's here. If I'm not, that's here.
Yeah.
That's on Saturday at 6 p.m. on the 29th. You've got another game on Wednesday that you travel to Chicago. That's an 8 o'clock game on Wednesday. Then you're back home against the Red Bulls on the 7th, 4 days later.
Wow.
Then you've got St. Louis FC 3 days later, 7:30 on the 10th.
At Fifth Third.
At Fifth Third. That is a Wednesday. It's Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday, what's the 7th? Sunday. Wednesday again.
Even from then you go Sunday on
And
the
then you get Sunday the 14th. 3 days later, you got to play the Houston Dynamo. 4 days later, you play
Sounders on the
DC
14th,
United.
Dynamo on the 17th, DC on the 21st. Yeah. And then
This
you
is-
finally get a little bit of a break to Friday for that huge showdown at LAFC.
This is a
Our schedule is ridiculous.
schedule.
What is going on with our
I was literally just about to skip. All right, who's their next opponent? And then I saw it, so I was like, all right, we got to talk about this. Anyways, next US Open Cup, St. Louis FC, July 10th at 7:30, Fifth Third. It'll be interesting to see the rotation for that match. Here's the thing. I don't know. Red Bulls, you got to think they're going to – that's a chance to take points away from the Red Bulls and add points to yourself to get yourself –
And you're about to
more
travel
momentum.
to Seattle that weekend. You play at Seattle on Sunday, so I think you might see a heavily rotated squad, especially considering you're playing. I mean, obviously you don't want to take anyone lightly, but you're playing USL competition, so you would hope you can rest a few of those big time starters and save them for the semifinals of the US Open Cup and also for Seattle that weekend on July 14th.
It's 10 games in like a month?
It is,
Like a month and a half?
in my estimation, it is 8 matches in 26 days.
Cool.
So
yeah, this is where Frank DeBoer is going to be really earning his money.
Yeah.
Trying to get the most out of these next 8 matches. I'm not going to put like a point total on her. It's one of those kind of hope for the best.
we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Exactly.
But I mean, it's a brutal stretch of matches. Fortunately, other than at Seattle, none of these, I guess home to DC United as well, none of these are super daunting. At Chicago, home to Montreal. At Toronto won't be easy. Home to the Red Bulls, so who have been struggling.
Really, the key here is you've got Tito, you've got Guzan, you've got Nagby, any guys that would have been on international duty that aren't on international duty outside of maybe Joseph Martinez.
Yeah, I mean, you should have everybody.
You should have.
We'll see how far Venezuela goes.
Yeah,
Looks like they
hopefully-
can get out of the group, but
Hopefully something happens and Joseph has to come back.
I wouldn't mind that. But hey,
I wouldn't mind.
I mean, and that's why I'm looking to that game again at Toronto. Eric is who we kind of mentioned. This is, and we'll see. In a week's time.
I truly don't think it's going to be Vasquez
How did you know what I was going to ask? I didn't even
because I know
even
you're
finish.
going with that one.
Wow, so he's so smart.
When you work together with people in radio,
Yeah, we have that
people on
connection.
podcasts,
Yeah, we have
you
that
just,
connection.
it's like the mind.
So you don't think?
coming
So
together.
do you think it's Romario? Or do you think you see Tito up there, or what?
I'm leaning more towards someone like Tito.
Mhm. Who himself is just kind of getting back fit right now. but-
Yeah, I just think that you're gonna have. I'm wondering, could you potentially see Pidgey up there? I don't.
Well, that's the other option is you throw a false 9 up there, and that would be PT or Barco most likely. It's going to be really interesting. It's a tough. It's just one guy you're really missing in Joseph, but
man, he's such a cog.
and he's key for the way that DeBoer wants to play tactically too, because we've always talked about how he's dropping into the midfield and helping with build-up play, helping possess the ball, helping lay it off, spring other guys in behind. That's not a big part of the game of a Brandon Vasquez or a Romario Williams, or even to some extent a Tito Villalba if you put him up there. So you're going to have issues with personnel. Like you said, DeBoer going to earn his money during the stretch. You're going to have issues with personnel. Who do you play there? I think also with what type of system you use when you consider how essential Joseph Martinez is to the way that Frank DeBoer wants to play. And maybe that's why you look at the numbers in this Columbus match, even where you played okay, and say, wow, we only had 50% possession. Maybe a big part of that is you don't have a striker. Even though Vasquez played well, he's not the type of guy that can come back, hold the ball up with his back to goal, and maintain possession of the ball.
I just think if we're gonna see
Consistently, at least.
a kind of the only what I would love for Tio to do if you were in this position is spend the first 60 minutes chasing everyone on that back line.
That's the thing, and that would be a tactical change, right?
Trying to create
Yeah.
something. Trying
As
to
you
create
play
a
more
turnover.
high press. Yeah.
So because with Petey Barco and Tito, and I'm trying to think who else would be in the mix. Gressel maybe.
What as like a 9
just
or
just
like a
no,
false
just
nine?
attacking players that would be in positions where they would be pressing high.
Yeah.
That to me would
Definitely
be
those three,
that would be
Barco,
those
yeah.
would be good combinations to create something on a counter or off a turnover or keeping that pressure up on that back line is going to open this game up more.
Right.
And the more open it is with a guy like Tito up top, if that is the case, the better this game goes
Yeah.
for Atlanta United,
Yeah.
I think.
No, and that's we'll talk about that a ton next week as well as if you do that, and I think you bring up a good point, Eric. If you do that, that's changing your tactics completely.
Yeah.
If you're going to high press, play direct, play at pace, that's that's more Tata Martino than Frank de Boer. But you just might even if you play a Romario or Vasquez up top, I think you have to play a little more direct because those guys want balls into the box.
I think that if you do have to pick between, if you're not going to play Tito up top, which is a possibility, it's a realistic possibility, then I think it's going to be Brandon Vasquez. Like that to me is non-questionable.
One thing you can do, and I'm spitballing here, is you go back to that 3-5-2, and you play. We all know how it works in the back with whether it be 3 or 5 or whatever, and Gressel would be one wing back and probably Brekshea the other. But that way you can play that out and out 9 and Vasquez and Romario, have a free player underneath, which I assume would be Barco, and that player, that was Miguel Almiron last year, can run around, receive the ball, start the counterattack, even at times lead the press. And that player, because they have such freedom in the way they play and so little defensive responsibility, that can kind of cover up, I think, for some of the lack of improvisation in the games of a Brandon Vasquez or Romario Williams. So that's another thing you could do, is go to a 3-5-2, put Barco underneath Vasquez or Romario and tell them to stay on the last defender, and Barco, you run around and cover all the space underneath. And that kind of can allow you to still build up effectively without Vasquez or Romario having to get on the ball in positions where they're being required to play with their back to goal and maintain possession in the build-up.
Lastly, before we take off, and we'll talk about this next week. Next week we'll have a radio show on Wednesday, likely the podcast on Thursday.
Wednesdays at 7 p.m. on Atlanta Sports X.
We will we'll recap the game the night before on the podcast and do kind of a preview show.
Yeah.
That Wednesday.
Yeah.
On the radio.
And then do a Thursday pod to recap.
Yep.
Yeah.
The one thing I did want to hit very briefly is this All-Star game.
Eric loves All-Star.
I absolutely adore All-Star games. Ezequiel Barco, Pity Martinez, Leandro Gonzalez-Perez, Brad Guzan, all announced as part of the All-Star game, voted into the All-Star game.
Wait.
I have no idea how Pity was voted into the All-Star game.
It's Pity, Barco, Guzan, and who?
LGP.
So Joseph Martinez didn't make it? Okay.
I look, I can't
Whatever.
tell you how this works.
Whatever.
I know this isn't opinion. It is opinion, but it's not opinion.
This is fan vote, right?
I don't know.
The 11 is fan vote.
Here's the thing. Who the hell voted these guys in?
Who are the 11? Name. Do we have the MLS All-Star?
I don't really care about the 11 because honestly, I don't care about anyone else other than the guys that are who are the idiots that voted these players in? Who?
All right. Do
you understand what that does?
Right, because you don't want them to play it.
This is a meaningless game. They got to travel to Orlando.
Oh, that's the worst part.
There's a risk that Barco, Pity, LGP, and Guzan all get hurt. Who are the idiots that voted them in?
Eric is very upset about this.
Why?
He's very upset.
And when the commissioner chooses Joseph Martinez as like the commissioner pick or whatever, I'm going to be pissed off at the commissioner too. This is nonsense. Stop with the All-Star games.
Eric hates All-Star games.
Stop it.
Jeez. Mr. VAR's taking all the fun away. He doesn't want All-Star games to be played.
And the thing is, All-Star games, they're supposed to be nothing but fun. But it turns out, as we saw with
well, we're still scarred from the Greg Garza.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. With the Greg Garza fiasco, it just haunts my dreams.
I don't know. I mean, I don't want anyone to get
enough with the All-Star games.
But Angry Eric is kind of cool, so I don't know. Maybe
no more All-Star games. I think Atlanta United should honestly, if anyone is listening from the club, please refuse to let them go.
They just make up an injury.
Take a stand. Refuse to let them go.
Well,
if you're a true Atlanta United fan, and I'm just kidding, but if you're a true Atlanta United fan, you will go to the airport You will find out when they're taking off, and you will stand in front of the plane.
Oh boy.
You will not allow them to take off.
Wow. I didn't realize you got so angry about this.
And you're going to put all these players in purple shirts?
Right. Well, they're wearing basically an Orlando colors.
This is.
And look, if you want to get mad at something, it'd be about them being forced to go to Orlando. I don't think it's that big a deal. I mean, like, I don't want to get injured either.
This is a travesty of epic.
It's a nice. It's nice recognition.
Everyone that voted for these players deserves a swift kick in the shin.
A swift kick in the shin. Wow, that's furious.
Don't vote for Atlanta United players in the All-Star game.
Right. They might get hurt, even though it's good for the club.
Is it good for the club?
I guess. It's nice. It's nice to get your name out there.
To play against the Atletico Madrid C team?
No, but I think they'll bring over a decent roster. Maybe we'll see João Felix.
Come on.
Playing for them. They're a big money signing.
Come on. You know what doesn't count? A win over Atletico Madrid.
Yeah.
You know what doesn't count? That. I will say.
I'm a little frightened right now.
I will say that if Joseph Martinez does score in this match, I hope that he takes off his jersey. I hope he holds it up, much like he did when he broke the MLS scoring record.
Mm-hmm.
Holds it up
in Orlando,
right in front of the wall, for all the world to see, in purple.
Oh, holds up the purple. Yeah.
And I want him to mouth, "Who's your daddy? Who's your daddy?" Here's the other thing. Enough with this father crap. That's not what he meant.
Oh, we're going through this again, right?
That's not what he meant.
Well,
you guys all sound like idiots when you say he fathered you. That's not at all what he meant.
Right, it doesn't translate the way.
Not at all.
But he basically meant, "I'm your dad." Right?
That's what it means. I'm your daddy.
Right. But I like fathered you.
The dumbest thing. It's you like it because it's so dumb.
It's just very condescending. It's like I brought you to what you are. I
I'm honestly kidding about standing in front of a plane.
Eric got really angry. I
just want to make sure I'm clear. I'm kidding about standing in front of a plane.
I didn't sound like it.
I don't want anyone to get hurt.
I don't know.
I will restate that I really don't like Atlanta United players going to this game. I don't care about anybody else.
Apparently so. Jeez.
I don't like the game itself. I don't like Atlanta United.
Well, we know you hate All-Star games. You've been on this tip since we started the podcast, or at least since I've been on the podcast.
No one watches them. I don't know what they're for. I don't know who they're for.
I would like him as All-Star game if they brought back the skills stuff. They had in like the 90s, and where you'd be doing crossbar challenge, who had the fastest shot, keeper wars. That stuff was cool. But it's a friendly match, so hopefully no one will get injured. Okay, hopefully no one will get injured. If someone gets injured, I am not coming into the studio for our next show because whatever you just did was horrifying, and I can't be around that. It's too scary.
Let's not let it happen.
Greg Garza's shoulder broke Eric. I love it. I love it, Jenna.
Anyways, that match, July 31st, in Orlando City Stadium. Aren't they changing the name of that stadium?
Yeah,
I forget what they're changing it
to some sponsor that no one has ever heard of before. I can't remember. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. There's so much Orlando content to get to as the season goes on.
Anyways, another reason to crap on Orlando.
Oh, easy.
All right. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up? It's been a goodie.
It's been fun. Yeah, I've never seen you get that angry before, but
you got angry here.
Like I said, we're looking forward to next week. We're going to preview the match on the radio, and then we'll have a recap the following day. I'm really, really looking forward. Like we kind of talked about, if we leave you with anything, it's who's going to play that number 9 position with Joseph Martinez gone, and also are you going to see a tactical change in the way Atlanta United approaches the match because Joseph is such a critical part to Frank de Boer's system.
Stephen Reed just asked if I wanted to go to the All-Star game.
Did he?
On the chat.
Oh, right. Oh, he has tickets. Want to go?
Screw you, Stephen.
I don't know, Stephen. Did you just hear what happened? Do you really want to sit with Eric?
Screw you, Stephen.
Plus, he'll drink I don't know.
I would
throw down.
I would definitely drink heavily, and the entire time I would complain about the All-Star game to the referee.
Yeah.
To the players.
So do you really want to sit with us?
To the fans.
Seriously?
Orlando fans would definitely punch you in the face.
Well.
Valentine, whatever his face.
If they figured out who you are, they're coming after you anyway, my friend. You've done too much to those poor people.
Follow us on Twitter at MOTS Podcast. You can follow me at Eric G. Quintana.
You can follow me at JoshB914.
Sam is at Sam J. Franco. Follow us on Facebook, Mountains of the South. We're on Instagram, MOTS Podcast. Follow the YouTube page, MOTS Podcast as well. Subscribe. Donate to the podcast if you like. Patreon.com/MOTS podcast. Every little bit helps. And is that it? I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
Mm-mm.
Make sure you're listening to the radio show every week,
Yeah.
7 o'clock,
Yep.
Atlanta Sports X.
Dirty South
You
Soccer.
can't listen on the radio. Listen on the app.
Yep.
There's soccer on the radio, guys. I'm involved. I want to grow this thing.
Now you're whispering?
Let's make it
Wow.
happen.
Now he's whispering. I can't handle this.
All right. That does it for us. Until next time. See you later, Atlanta.
Thanks, y'all.
Oh.
Sorry, Eric raged. I'm pretty scared. I'm going to run home now.
Hulk smash!